I'm starting a new podcast where I'm going to be interviewing women in ministry, just to learn a bit about their journey and how they grew their ministry so that other women can learn from what they're doing. Hi, today I'm going to be interviewing Pastor Yvonne Brooks for this podcast, The Ministry Journey. Pastor Brooks is co-pastor at New Jerusalem Community Church in Aston, Birmingham. She's also the founder of the Women of Purpose Ministry and founder of a ministry called the Esther's Academy. She's also an in-demand speaker, she's an author, and she has also done a little bit of TV presenting. Good morning, Yvonne. How are you?
Good morning, Marcia. I'm wonderful, thank you. And it's so kind of you to invite me to speak with you today.
Of course, of course. You know what the Bible says, the younger women, we must learn from the older women. So I'm
what are you trying to say?
There's a glory in the mature age. I was talking to a minister the other day who's just decided to go grey, and she is so excited. She said that is what she's been waiting for a long time. She's just kind of really excited about just being able to show off her grey hair, which I thought.
I'm excited about that too. I've been trying to go grey for 10 years.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. Wow. I used to dye my hair because, of course, you know, I'm not going to have a grey hair. I'm not getting old. But over 10 years ago, I decided, you know what? I want to go grey. And this thing would not happen. So I have a few more now. And I'm so proud of them. And the beautiful thing is that they go all the way through the hair. It's not just here at the front.
So it's like you've got silver highlights. You're making a fashion statement.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Plus, I wear it as a badge of honor and dignity. I think we don't respect and revere our elders enough. We don't recognize the wisdom that they carry. And I'm not saying that I'm carrying all of that, but in a general way. And Mike Murdoch says that the law of recognition has to kick in before we can actually receive from people. So if we don't recognize what is in them, we can't actually access what is in them. So I decided to put it out there. I think the thing that kicked it off the most was when I started on the menopausal journey, and I realized that rather than it being such a negative thing, which it could have been, it's turned into a very positive thing for me and given me a new lease of life. And I want anybody who wants to benefit from me to have the opportunity. So I wear the badge, you know, you go to Aston and it says, I'm here to help. Well, I think I need to get one of those badges. Because I'm here to help.
That's a really positive approach to aging and going grey. And I think it just makes younger people excited. I mean, I'm in my 50s now. And, you know, when you're in your 20s, I'm sure it's the same for you. You know, being in your 50s, being in your 60s is just a long off journey. And then when you get there, you think, wow, it's okay. In fact, for me, I'm thinking the only way that I'd go back to being young again is if I could take my experiences with me. Yes. If I can't, I'll stay exactly where I am.
My sentiments exactly. I wouldn't go back for anything in the world.
Amen. So, you know, God's been good to us. So I'm going to get into the meat of the interview and just ask you a few questions about your ministry. So you wear a number of hats, but I'm going to focus on the Women of Purpose and Esther's Academy and just ask you what inspired you to set up those ministries and just share a little bit about what they actually do.
Well, your title for your program is Ministry Journey. And the truth is that I never knew that I would be on this particular journey in setting up ministries, etc. I grew up in a time when women were not very prominent in ministry. Neither were you encouraged to be in ministry. We were encouraged maybe to be in the kitchen for convocation and meetings that lasted more than a day. So we'd be cooking, we'd sing on the choir. But certainly when it came to actually leading staff, that wasn't particularly encouraged. I'm not saying it was discouraged, but it just wasn't in the vocabulary, you know? And so for years and years, I just sort of helped and assisted other people. And I remember when I got married, when me and my husband got married, we started doing informal premarital counseling because there was nobody around doing that. And so we started 2 weeks after we were married, we were counseling other couples just with the experience that we had.
That's funny.
And so, of course, this led to me coming into contact with many, many women. Also, being in the church and mixing with other churches, I often would come into contact with other women, and always they would have a question or they would have a situation that they needed help with. Now, in my work life, I was a mental health nurse. So I don't know whether that's what attracted people, but I would find myself answering questions, dealing with questions. And so many women kept coming to me. I felt as though, what am I supposed to do with this information, you know? And then I felt the Lord actually speak to me, and I'm not trying to be super spiritual or nothing, but I got a really strong impression that I was supposed to do something for the ladies, for the women. And at that time, Marcia, there wasn't the proliferation of conferences that we have now. There was very few things going on specifically for women. And so the first thing I tried to do was to have a banquet, because we never used to get dressed up and go anywhere. You know.
Okay, well, how long ago was that?
I think that was 1998 when I had the first banquet.
You were a revolutionary, pioneer, innovator. Yeah.
So it was amazing because, listen, people turned up and I couldn't recognize them. Nobody wasn't wearing a hat. They had really fixed up. They were wearing fancy dresses. Myself, I had to borrow a dress, Marcia, because we never went to anything in the evening or, you know, out of the ordinary. So I didn't even have a dress that I could wear. I had to borrow somebody's dress to host this first event. And of course, that gave me the appetite for more. And following on the back of that, I launched the Women of Purpose Conference, which I used to hold at Easter at that time, because there was nothing happening at Easter, okay? So we had the first one in Shropshire, and we had 120 women there. And I just felt a really strong impression that I was meant to do this. And what happened was I had no money. I had to borrow £100 to pay a deposit on the venue. And then I thought, well, what do we do now? Who's going to speak? You know, what's going to happen? How do you put a timetable together? What about music? I couldn't play music. And there were very few women who I knew who played music. So it ended up, we just had to pray. The Lord said, do not do this by yourself. So I got a team of ladies around me. I think there was about 10 of us. And between us, we managed to put together the most awesome conference. Oh my goodness. And as I said, we had 120 women there. The late June Cranston was there, and she was amazing because she was like a midwife to all of us who never been to a conference, didn't know what happened at conference. She was there. Caroline Malcolm was there. And I had a couple of speakers from the States. And I'm telling you, from the moment we opened that conference, God just showed up and women started birthing their ministries. If I was to name some of them, you would actually know their names. They literally got into that birthing position, just like you would if you were birthing a natural baby. And they pushed out that baby and they gave birth to their ministries, and they left that place. It was totally amazing. Now, I was under the apprehension that it was only meant to be one conference. So I went home, I said, there you go, Lord, I've done it, that's it. And then he gave me the theme for the next year. And I thought, oh no, I don't want to keep doing this. But you know what? I had so many calls from ladies who had been there, from ladies who wished they had been there. And lives just began to change from that time until now. And what I cultivated was the ability to hear God's voice and then just do what he said, because I didn't have any original ideas myself. It all came from him. And I literally just followed what he was saying. And over the years, I think we've had 22 conferences now.
Oh, wow.
We missed a couple of years, but we've had 22 conferences. Of course, we were due to have one last year on Zoom because of lockdown and everything. that didn't happen, but I am pushing ahead with the conference for this year. And I'm not sure what the platform will be, but we're definitely having it because so many lives have changed. So we set up Women of Purpose, and that was all there to change the destiny of women within the body of Christ and any woman who would engage with us.
Okay, can I ask a question then? Because obviously within, you know, in Pentecostalism in this country, you've got the Trinitarians and you've got the Apostolics. So I'm going to have to assume that within the Apostolic tradition, your Women of Purpose conferences and ministry was very pioneering, very innovative, maybe one of the first.
I think it must have been, although that was far from my thought at the time. I wasn't out there thinking, yeah, I'm doing the first, you know,
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of any of that. My only thing was that I was doing what God had told me to do. And the strange thing was, Marcia, up to that point in my life, there had been a big separation between, I don't want to call names, but between the apostolics and the other churches, okay? But I found under the banner of Women of Purpose, we had everybody, Methodist, Baptist, whatever their denomination was, they were coming. And over the years, myself and Bishop, my husband, we have become very ecumenical. I think that's the right
ecumenical
word. That's the word. And what we're realizing is it's not up to us to divide anything or separate out people. If God is calling anybody, we come together with them, we work with them, we believe the same thing. So, you know, apart from a few nuances, but I don't use that as a measuring rod at all, because every kind of woman was there. Now, the thing I had to be careful of at the time was, because a lot of pastors, and I don't know about every pastor, but a lot of pastors were very territorial about their people. So I didn't want to do anything that would run over into a Sunday, because nowadays, you know, they have conferences and finish on Sundays. I started the conference on Thursday so we could finish Saturday midday, so that the ladies could travel home and be ready for their Sunday services, because I didn't want any pastors cussing me out, calling me names, or labeling me as a sheep stealer. So I was very, very careful at that point, because you're aware of what people think and say and do. And I was very, very careful to try not to tread on any pastor's toes.
Okay, let me ask you about Esther's Academy, because obviously that's an offshoot of Women of Purpose. And I had the pleasure of speaking at, I think it was your first banquet many years ago. How did that come about? Because what I remember particularly from your event was how the women found undergoing that course very transformative, to the point, you know, moving from being depressed, feeling downtrodden, you know, with maybe mental health issues, to coming out feeling light, free, liberated. So if you could just tell me a little bit about the Esther's Academy.
Well, with anything, if you stay isolated, you're always going to get an idea that you are the only one that's going through that. You're the only one that's experiencing that. You're the only one that there's anything wrong with. You know, so we need to break that and bring people together. So after several years of, in fact, yeah, it was the year 2000 that we did the original pilot for Esther's Academy. And I had a strong impression that God wanted his women to be a certain way, to be polished, to be finished, to have a strong self-esteem, to look a certain way and to behave a certain way, and to be prepared to step onto any stage in the world and be able to conduct themselves. And of course, I didn't get there straight away, but we started off, and I think we did 4 workshops in that first year. But then just running it, I realized how much it would take, that I needed another team of people who would work with me. So we actually didn't run the Esther's Academy for another couple of years. In the meantime, I was just praying all the time and looking, watching to see what the Lord would do. And then I was in church one Sunday, and he just said to me, literally, there's your team, and pointed out 3 ladies. Okay. And so these 3 ladies became my core team, who we then rewrote the program with more details. And then we decided to launch it. We decided to run it in a hotel rather than in a church building. We decided to charge a fee, which wasn't expensive, because what happened was we would have people who would donate so that we could keep the price low. Because for some reason, as women, even though we want the best, we don't always want to pay for the best. And I'm not in this to try and make a profit, but when I finished, I want to know that all the bills are paid and I've been able to achieve what I wanted to achieve. I don't take any payment for running the program or anything like that. And none of the team members get paid either. If we have speakers in, they tend to have like traveling expenses, but that's it. So we're not trying to rip people off, but we wanted the program to major in several areas, which was the internal workings, your thoughts, your feelings. We wanted it to impact on your purity. When I say that, I mean your health, how you think about things, how you conduct yourself, whether on a business level or on a personal level. We wanted your relationships to be impacted. We wanted women to get their finances together, have a budget, have a sense of value. We wanted to prepare women for getting married, or if they're already married, how to actualize the potential of their marriage by knowing the real origins of marriage and what it means. We also wanted to take the time to share their skincare, beauty tips, hair care, deportment, how we dress, everything that would impact the woman. And one of the major things that we do, I think, is the communication, because I discovered that if we don't have a vocabulary, a narrative, and the language, we live in a place of frustration, because the only way that we can really express ourselves is either by losing it and smashing stuff up, or becoming a person that can craft words that actually express what we're feeling on the inside. And so we try to do this in that workshop, and it's actually grown. We started off with 6 workshops. Now we're up to 8, and I'm having to actually say, no, we mustn't do any more, because there's so many areas, Marcia, that we could impact lives in. And one of the other things that I added recently was the political Esther, because I want us as women to look at the political arena and see that there is a place there for us, a place to function, a place to shape and impact on what's going on in our world. Because listen, decisions are being made at board tables. If we're not sitting at those tables, then decisions are being made about us, for us, and we've had no say whatsoever. So the only way that we can change that is by actually sitting at the table. So we were very blessed to have a local government person in Birmingham to come and to talk to us. And my plan had been to do a political symposium and invite women to come along and hear more, but with COVID and everything.
Oh, okay.
But I am still planning to go ahead and do that.
What I like about Esther's Academy is that it's like a finishing school, and it's holistic. So you're taught how to walk and talk like a lady, but you're also sort of like given a holistic view of life. My next question was going to be, what role does faith, prayer, and scripture play in the role of your ministry? But you've made it very evident that most of the steps in your ministry have been as a result of hearing God's voice and praying into your ministry and new development. So the next thing I'm going to ask you then is, we all know that running a ministry can sometimes be a walk of faith, and every ministry faces challenges. What are the 2 main key challenges that you've faced over the years, and how have you overcome them?
Wow, only 2.
Well, no, it's an interview, so I'm kind of, or maybe three, but I'm just kind of.
I will stick with the 2. The first one is finances. Okay, I'm doing this ministry mainly for women, but as I alluded to earlier, women don't always want to pay. And I always take into account that these women have other bills, etc., to pay as well. So I try to make it possible that they can pay in installments. They can start paying well ahead of the time for the conference, because usually we've now moved to hotels because it's like God just upgrades us as we go along. And I remember the first place we went to was a Christian conference center. The second place was a Christian conference center. But I just kept hearing the Lord saying, I want more for my women. I want more for my women. And so I remember I was so scared, Marcia, the first time I went to a hotel, because I'm sure you've experienced this, when you book a hotel, you have to give them numbers and you have to agree to pay a certain amount of deposit. And this is before perhaps you've even got one person booked to come. So it's a huge step of faith. And I'm telling you something, it really drives you into prayer.
Yeah, it does actually.
It really drives you
when
into
the tickets
prayer.
are not, particularly when the tickets are not selling, it's like, you know, you really kind of get praying, particularly if you know it's what God has called you to do. So yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so even though we came under the protection of the church, umbrella-wise, we were financially independent from the church in the sense that we had to raise our own finances. Although one or two times the church had to help us out, because you would have people who would book, they'd pay some money, and then they'd say, oh, and I'm really soft. I'm really, really soft. Oh yeah, come, you can pay me after. Only to find out that they didn't know what after meant, you know. and so many times, Marcia, I would be left to pay the bill to the hotel without the people paying for their place.
Can you see my eyes?
Yes, yeah. And to me, I couldn't understand that, because I'm a Christian. So how can I mistreat another Christian that way, or mishandle myself to misrepresent myself? I'm going to pay and then just disappear. And you never hear from them again. You know, so that's one of the major challenges, the financial side. And of course, there are some things that you can apply for funding for. And a couple of times I didn't manage to secure funding, but because it's a Christian organization, you don't always get that open-handed thing with funders. But when I would get funding, I would actually offer places for free to people. And sometimes I would reduce the price for others, so we would match fund. You pay half, we'll pay half. So, and I'm still not rich after all of these years. Because
let me ask a question, because finances and ticketing or whatever remains an issue for women in ministry. And you've just said that you gave free places and people never paid. Have you overcome that challenge?
Yes, I think so. Because number one, I've had to change my outlook, and I've made it a subject of prayer. And do you know, a few years ago, Marcia, I started seeding. God has showed me the different ways of giving that will also protect me. So I've always tithed since 1974 when I left school. I've always given offering, but then I learned about seeding and scattering, okay? And I remember when I first started seeding, I said to the Lord, because when you seed, you make your request to the Lord. You tell him what it is you're seeding for. So I said, Lord, I want to see different colored faces at my conference. I want a variety of women. And I want everybody paid before we leave Birmingham to go to Leicester. So said, so done. So now that's what we practice, Marcia. Everybody has to be paid. If you want to book last minute, even though you knew about the conference for 8 months, then yeah, you can book, but you're going to need to pay, because I'm not picking up, you know, the Lord said, enough of that foolishness.
Okay.
You're not picking up that anymore. People need to pay. And so that's where I'm at. let me tell you that we had over 30 women of non-color. Is that a polite way? And everybody was paid before we left. So I realized that prayer really does change things. And we always did pray, but you have to pray specifically for what it is that you want, you know? Oh, God bless the conference. Yeah, he will bless the conference, but what kind of blessings do you want? You know?
That's really good to hear that, you know, you dealt with that challenge. Because I think that sometimes we forget that as much we're doing the Lord's business, and that has to be applied to all areas, including the financial areas, and particularly when we're giving people and we want people to hear what's been prepared for them, we sometimes overlook that. So it's really good to hear that you saw the issue and you tackled it in prayer, and God has kind of helped you to move forward.
Yeah, but you said the right word. You said business. You see, we treat ministry casually when it's not supposed to be casual. It's God's business.
That's right.
And I've realized over the years that you have to change your approach and your outlook. And it's not being hard-hearted or anything. Because listen, we can't be more loving and kinder than God.
No.
He's the most loving of any being. But sometimes we want to step over that and, oh yeah, we got to be this, we got to be that. Listen, there's always somebody trying to take the mickey. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be compassionate and tenderhearted, but you must know that you are operating God's business.
Very much so. That's something that I learned doing some sessions with a friend of mine, Roy Francis, and going back to what you alluded to, so the fact that we do ministry because we want to help people. Can you give me 3 examples of how, of maybe individuals or whatever who've been transformed by engaging with some of your ministry activities?
Oh, wow. Wow.
I know you've got hundreds.
Well, if I go back to the very, very first conference that I had, am I allowed to say names?
Yeah, of course.
I'm sure you might know this person. Her name's Larice Murphy.
Yeah.
Her life completely changed. And she's a minister now in her own right, in her local church, you know, speaking and operating as a minister of the gospel. She didn't see that before. And I've got her testimony. I can send it to you. She shared with us for our 21st anniversary.
Oh, wonderful.
She sent that testimony. Totally amazing. Sometimes you don't even realize how it's impacted people, you know, because they go off then a trajectory because now they're on a path fulfilling their ministry. So they might not be able to engage with you every 5 minutes or be in touch like they used to, but that doesn't take anything away from what's happened. The Esther's Academy, we operate in South Africa and Zimbabwe. And there's several lives that have completely changed. I have the testimony of the Bishop Tudor Bismarck, okay? And his testimony is that the ladies who have undergone the Esther's Academy perform at a different level and have a different quality about them than the ladies who have not completed the program, okay? And then I'm trying to think of somebody here in Birmingham. I was speaking to somebody yesterday, and what happened was she came into the program, and I think just as she was coming in, her husband was killed in a motorbike accident. So she was thinking of not even coming on the program because of her grief, etc. But she came onto the program and she found it to be such a place of solace, okay? And while she was on the program, she got the idea that she should start a ministry for widows. So now she's launching her ministry. She's already launched it. She's done several events, and now she's looking to go bigger. So she's going to form a board and establish it as a CIC and move forward in that way. This is something that she would never have done before, but she will testify herself that Esther's Academy changed her life. This same lady traveled with me to South Africa, And she gave her testimony in South Africa and encouraged women there not only to do the Esther's Academy, but to listen to the voice of God subsequently, so that they themselves will be launched into their own ministry. And if I took time, I could find you more and more people, but there's very few people that have come into the academy or come into the conference and then came out the same. Everybody.
That's the great thing about women's ministries, in the sense that we do what we do, and we don't know whose lives are being impacted until they come and tell us. But the great thing is that people are launched into doing exciting things because, you know, like for yourself, you've been obedient. And what excites me and inspires me about what you're doing is the fact that you have really taken it international, because, you know, we live in a time where everybody says, I'm an international speaker. But what's really great is that your ministry is not just in England, but it's, I believe, South Africa, Zimbabwe, America, Jamaica, and then you've had inquiries from Fiji, of all places. Can you believe that? Fiji, over the other side of the world near Australia. It's like, wow, you know, that's when you know that what you're doing is having an impact. And it's really inspiring to know that it's somebody from within the Black Pentecostal church movement here in this country that, you know, you're establishing, or you're doing what you're doing, and people from other parts of the world we don't even really have much contact with, are seeing what you're doing and think, wow, the women here could really benefit from that ministry.
Well, my next destination, I hope, will be Ghana.
Okay. Have you been? I'm sure that you must.
Never been to Ghana, but I'm
sure that somebody from Ghana will watch this and say, I need to contact this woman.
Well, just this week, I actually reached out. I was introduced to somebody, and I'm going to be following up on that. And I really want to take this ministry to Ghana.
Excellent. So you have been in ministry for a long time. You know, you're a pastor's wife. I mean, come on, how many people get married and start ministry a week after they get married? I mean, that is just amazing. What has kept you going?
Well, I would have to say it's God that's kept me going, because, you know, people tend to think that we operate ministry on a blank backdrop, or that we can get a virtual backdrop.
Like but some people.
We operate ministry in real time, in real life. And so for us, because I didn't know that I was going to be married to a pastor. He was a deacon when we got married, and I had no idea we'd be moving in the direction of pastoralship, because I had this vision, you know, where we were going to dress with coordinated colors and walk into church and sit together and hold hands and worship the Lord together in synchronicity. Wow, that didn't last 5 minutes, Marcia, because I was from London and he was from Stafford, and I moved to Stafford the day of our wedding. And the week after, I was in church. That's when I realized that he was leading the service and leading that area. That was 1978. By 1981, he'd been sent to Birmingham to lead the church here in Birmingham. And I didn't even come with him because I thought it was just a temporary thing. So I stayed in the church in Stafford. Fast forward 7 years. Of course, all of this time I was doing different ministry. I was now an evangelist, and I was doing different ministries, plus having children, working as a mental health nurse, working as a farmer in my back garden. and also we were active in premarital counseling, some marriage counseling. So it was just ministry. Our whole life has just been ministry. Next month it's going to be 43 years of marriage, and the whole time has just been ministry. So I am very motivated. And even though sometimes I think to myself, oh, I've had enough of people, I don't want to, the Lord helped me to see that the only times I felt like that was when I was tired.
Okay. So you love what you do, basically.
Yes. And so he would say to me, don't wait to get tired, rest before you get tired. And so I've learned to do that. And that just keeps my motivation very high. Plus, I believe that I'm actually in my purpose. I believe that I'm doing what I was born to do. There can't be anything more motivational than that. I don't compare myself to other people. I don't look at what other people are doing because they need to do what they were born to do. I'm only responsible for what I was born to do. So I am very motivated. And sometimes I'll just be sitting and all of a sudden a bright idea comes and oh yeah, let's, and then there you go, there's something else. I have to actually rein myself in sometimes because there's only 24 hours in the day. And for some of that, you have to sleep. Okay. Of course, I'm very, very fortunate now that my children are all grown and left home. But that doesn't mean that the parental responsibility is less. I found out that my children need me, and I'm sure that's the truth for other parents. They need you more now than they ever did, even when they were very young. And so they need you in the sense of they need your affirmation, they need your support, they need you to be there, they need to know that they're loved, they need to know that you're proud of them, and they need you physically in their lives. And so I've still had to apportion a great deal of my time to looking at and after my family, even though they're all now, well, two of them are in their 30s, one's just exited their 30s, so she was 40 this year. But they need me emotionally just as much. And I can't neglect them because I'm in ministry. And that's the other thing that we have to be careful about as ministers of the gospel, is that we do not neglect the first charge. Because when God meets you, he's going to ask you, where are the children that I gave to you? You're going to have to literally account for your physical children. And we're blessed that all three of them are in church, very involved in ministry, very God-focused. I'm so grateful for that. And I don't take it lightly or even take responsibility for it. I believe that, yes, we had to live a good example before them and, treat them in the right way. But God has captured their hearts. And I'm so grateful, Marcia, for that, because it doesn't matter what they achieve, degrees coming out of their ears. If they're not saved, what's the point?
No, it's true. It's true. You're a true apostolic mother. True mother. True
now you're
apostolic mother. It's not important, just as long as you see it. There's many women who feel called to ministry, to run a ministry, who feel called to ministry or to run a ministry. What 3 pieces of advice would you give them?
Okay. You said they're called to ministry, but sometimes we call ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to do good things. But before you step out into anything, you need to make sure that it is God that's called you and that it's the right place for you, whether it's women's ministry or children's ministry or whatever. You may be going as a missionary to Africa. It doesn't matter what the ministry is. Just make sure it's God that's called you. So for me, at the point of the call is always the time to prepare. So because you feel you have a call doesn't mean that you jump up and you jump into this. No, it's now time to prepare. So you need to get your ducks all in a row. You need to make sure that internally you're aligned with the Lord spiritually, you're aligned, you know the word, you have your theology. When I was growing up, I had no idea about theology. I thought it was some kind of science, but you need to know what you believe about God. You need to know what you believe about his word, because that's going to affect everything that you do with other people and even with yourself. So number one advice that I would give is prepare yourself, align yourself, make sure you're under covering, that you are protected. And then the second thing that I would do is to make sure I have a team of people around me I love to collaborate with people. I like to have other people's ideas. I might not always take their ideas, especially if I feel that there is something really specific that God wants me to do, then I will always listen to the ideas and I allow them to color and help to form and shape what I'm doing. But I will always do what I believe God has called me to do. So you need a team of people, because especially in this country where if you become a CIC or become more formalized, then there are certain things that you have to make sure that you are doing and laws that you have to observe. So you need an administrator, you need somebody to look after the finance, maybe somebody to help you with writing the information about your ministry, somebody to publicize what you're doing, somebody who's good with social media. I mean, years ago, there was no social media, you know, but nowadays there's social media and there's different ways of getting your information out there. So a team of people. And the last thing would have to be stay true to what God has called you to do and make sure that you take care of yourself, because if you do not take care of yourself, you can't help anybody else. It's like that announcement they make on the aeroplane. If the oxygen mask comes down, then you are to put on your own mask first before you seek to help anybody else. Because guess how many people you can help if you're dead?
That's something to think about. So finally, the last questions, that's been what you've shared has just been so insightful, is what exciting plans do you have for your ministry that's really been going for about 4 decades and you still sound excited about serving the Lord?
I am so excited. Listen, I plan to wear out, not rust out. I plan to die in action. Because when you think about what God has done for you, there's so little that we can do for him, you know? And even every morning I wake up, he's loaned me my breath. You know, I'm in my right mind, at least I think I am.
Okay. I think
so every day I have to live for him. And so what I'm planning to do, and I have been mulling over this during our lockdown and our time to think, and while I'm out in the garden ministering to my plants.
Doing a Prince Charles.
Huh?
Doing a Prince Charles. Remember he used to speak
Charles.
to plants.
Yeah, doing a Prince Charles. Yeah, well, look, we won't go there. One of the things I'd like to do, as I said to you, is to expand the Esther's Academy to more countries. So now I have to think of a way of financing that. Although when I say financing it, whenever I'm taking it to a new country, I always go with a team of people. And what we do, we deliver the training over a period of a week. And then we do a launch. So we train the people who are going to be delivering the program so that they have the experience literally of being on the program. Because once you experience it, Marcia, you want the other ladies to experience it the same way you have, because you feel that life-changing power operating in your life. So we never just send out, oh, here's a page or here's a manual. No, we go in person. We take them through the training, we give them all the materials, and then usually either myself, and up till now it has been me in person, I go to attend the graduations, okay? And I support the team by making sure there's training every year. Last year we had to do it on Zoom, but it was a wonderful training that we did to upskill them, because I don't want the people who are delivering the program to feel that they are giving to others, but they're not getting anything. So I make sure that we pour into them so that they can continue to pour into others around them. So that's how we do the training. So usually the ladies actually pay their own fare. But what I say to the host is, you have to provide the accommodation, but we will pay our own fare to come and, you know, our own expenses, etc. So I would love to be in the position where I can say to the ladies who are going with me, here's half the money. You just have to find the rest. And as I said to you, I want to go to Ghana, and I'm really looking forward to that. I already see it happening. So we're going to do that. But back here in this country, I told you that we was like under the protection of the church. I'm looking now to make Esther's Academy and Women of Purpose a CIC with its own independent board.
Okay.
And to forge forward as an entity that even when I drop dead in ministry, it can still keep going because it has a life of its own. It's not just because I'm doing it. I think anything that God establishes should be able to survive without that founder person still being there. It shouldn't stop because I stop. It should keep going. So that's what I want to do. And it's not just about legacy, because even if how many years from now people don't remember that I started it, that won't be a problem as long as it's going and as long as it's true to the ethos that we had in the first place, which was to prepare women for the world stage. Okay, so she walks onto the stage and people think, is she a politician or is she a beauty queen? You know, is she a lecturer or what is she? They don't know because everything is embodied in this woman. And she can be anything that she determines to be because we have helped to prepare her. God has done the internal work. We have done the external work and wound her up and positioned her to take her place in the world. And that's what excites me.
That sounds exciting. And on that note, I'm going to end this podcast. Thank you so much, Pastor Yvonne, for sharing it. I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, wow, 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 that is just so inspiring. You've just got so much to share, and what you have to share is really meaningful and impactful. So thank you for spending time sharing your ministry journey. Thank you.
It's been my absolute pleasure, Marcia. Thank you so much for asking me. I've loved every minute.
No, it was great. It was great.